Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to another Webinar Wednesday, number 374. We are on with a great webinar today on March 11th, 2026. This is Webinar Wednesday 374 on franchising myth and tips, and let's get rolling. And we're going to have a great discussion on a great opportunity out there for franchising. So we're going to have a franchising discussion. Got a great guest speaker we'll be bringing in here shortly. Also, the power of the franchising system and much, much more will be discussed. So all of your franchise questions, bring them today. We've got an expert here who can help you today. Our capital quarter, our regular feature dealing with accessing capital. Capital quarter is going to play the franchise card today and talk about franchising opportunities funding wise for small businesses. So if you're looking to do a franchise, maybe here are some solutions and some ideas on how you can get there. Our economic corner is going to stay on report too. There's a couple of economic data information, one of them from today, one of them from last week that we'll briefly touch on, but then we'll also talk about, of course, the economics of franchising. Our new feature, in addition to, capital quarter, economic corner, is AI and question mark. And today we're going to talk about small business survey data usage. And this is some brand new data that we have for usage here in our region, in our part of the world. Compare it to the national, and we'll get to that a little bit later. We'll have our community calendar that'll highlight some opportunities that are coming up for you to learn more and to get more information on particular subjects and matters. We'll also take your questions live after the presentation today. So come hard with some questions today on franchising. Your resources today will be in the chat box. And yes, we do have a poll. So a couple of different poll questions for those of you that are considering franchises and some other information that might be helpful to our special guest today. So let's start with our first particular question. And the first question being launched right now is, if you were considering a franchise, how much money do you think you would spend? How much do you think you would need to borrow? So now it's going after our funding question. So if you're considering a franchises, how much? Is it under 50? Between 50 and 150,000, 150 to 350, 350 to 750, or greater than 750. So if you're considering a franchise, how much do you think you would need to borrow? This could be very valuable information as we throw out there. So jump in, and if you are considering a franchise, what is the dollar amount that you would like to? Okay, we do have about 25% of you participating at this point. So jump in, and if you're considering a franchise, even remotely considering a franchise, just ballpark, what is the amount? Is it going to be under 50, 50 to 150,000, 150 to 350, 350 to 750, or over 750,000? Okay, a little over 30% of you participating. Not a great turnout, but I'm going to give you another couple of moments to jump in and answer this question. And if not, we're going to go ahead and close the first poll question with maybe an all-time low participation of 31%. Could be more technical issues on our end. I hope not. Let's share those results with you. And we have about 80% of you that are looking for between 50 and 150,000, and 20% of you between 150 and 350. Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. We will move on to our second poll question and launch it. And our second poll question is, what is the biggest concern you have about buying a franchise? Is it the startup cost? Is it the franchise fees and royalties? The lack of independence in running that business? Is it competition, market competition, or is it profit potential? Okay, so we do have already already close to that 31%. The biggest concern you have about buying into a franchise: startup costs, franchise fees and royalties, lack of independence, market condition, and profit potential. So we do have a third of you participating. Anybody wants to jump in? Now is the time. To biggest concerns about buying a franchise, buying into a franchise. We're going to close this in just a couple of moments. So last chance. And we are going to end the poll and share the results with you. And you see that 50% of you are the biggest concern is profit potential, is, paying maybe your fees listed and earning a profit. So half of you are there. 33% are on the startup cost and 17% on competition. Surprise, nobody was in on the lack of independence and the how rigid franchise agreements tend to be. So, okay, you got me on that one. So we'll stop sharing and move to the last of our three poll questions. And the final poll question of Webinar Wednesday number 374 is going to be, what is your current relationship with franchising? Do you have one? You are currently in a relationship with a franchise, or I am researching franchise opportunities. I'm just kind of considering starting a business and exploring franchise. I own an independent business, or I'm here to learn. So again, we do have 37% of you participating to the final franchise question of the day. The last poll question is, what is your current relationship with franchising? Are you in current relationship with a franchisor? Are you researching franchise opportunities, considering starting a business, exploring franchising? You own an independent business, or you're here to learn? And with 37% of you participating, we're going to go ahead and give you one last moment and in the poll and share those results with you that show that 33% of you are here to learn, and 33% of you are researching franchise opportunities, while 17% are considering starting a business and exploring the franchise option, and another 17% of you own a independent business. So thank you for those particular participation and those particular polls, and let's move along. One of our regular features here on Webinar Wednesday is our capital quarter. Our capital quarter is a look at accessing capital, and this time we're staying kind of on topic as we're trying to do these days, and it's why franchises often can get or receive U.S. Small Business Administration loan funding. So with that, one of the reasons you'll find is that you have with franchises, it's a proven business model and it's perceived to have less risk. Also, established brands provide built-in customer demand. If there's already some demand, it's already demand driven by word of mouth and marketing efforts of the franchisor. Also, your operation systems and training are already developed. Oftentimes, lenders and the SBA likes that, and performance data exists from other franchise locations. And we can also get into revenue patterns are oftentimes more predictable than startups. If you have a franchisor that's done 500 franchises, obviously there's a lot of data based on the revenue that is generated from those 500, and it oftentimes leads to more predictability than an independent startup of your own. So some of the other things, why it's maybe easier, or maybe why franchises often get SBA loans. Franchisors work with regional or national SBA lenders. So in working with specific lenders that understand their product, and they understand the likely borrower who's going to come to them. They also have a rigid amount that they need to invest, which makes it easier for them to get into that particular aspect. Franchisors can get that guaranteed government loans that are the best funding vehicle. Typically with franchisees, and I'll think of a food franchisees, You're looking at some leasehold improvements on a building, some maybe some equipment for the food and beverage type business in that instance. You're looking at some furniture and fixtures, and oftentimes a lot of those factors don't have collateral value. So understanding that and understanding that lenders are oftentimes cash flow lenders and will lend on flow of a successful franchisee can make up for maybe something less than, say, acceptable collateral position that a lender wants to see. So with those government products, oftentimes you'll see the SBA Community Express Loan, the SBA Guaranteed Loan Program, the SBA 7(a) program, and to an extent, even microloans that can go up to $100,000. One other reason why franchises oftentimes maybe find it easier or find it often to get SBA loans is that these deals are always going to be projection based, being a startup business without historical financial information. And franchisor and lenders have that data, and they have a profile of a successful applicant. So one of the things that SBA also has done over the years is they have created a franchise registry and directory. So the franchise registry was a process that was around for many years. It was ended in 2018 and went to the official franchise directory. So the reason that it was kind of nice having the franchise directory and before that the registry is because it allowed lenders the opportunity to have their individual agreements reviewed. So oftentimes a lender could go in and they can find a franchise agreement, they can find a standardized format that was already acceptable to the SBA. So that kind of went away in 2023, but by demand, lenders kind of wanted it back. And in 2025, SBA reinstated the franchise directory. And now they actually have that back and are using it to identify codes for franchise type businesses. So why that can matter is that it speeds up underwriting for franchise. So franchise loans, franchisees, it can speed it up rather than get caught up in the legal aspects of the agreements. It reduces legal burden for lenders. It also encourages affiliation and clarifies those rules between the franchisee and franchisor. It also encourages more banks to finance franchise type businesses. And we also see support franchise expansion using proven business models. Our economic corner, our regular feature on the economy, because you can do everything to control your business, you can't control the economy. So it's always good to know what's going on in the economy. And gee, you know, economists are becoming rock stars these days. Before they were these, you know, somewhat nerdish, pocket protector based, research driven animals. Now they are the cool kids on the block. And the reason? Economic news today with inflation. Inflation is a huge issue, still holding, and it's holding steady with the last report at 2.4%. Kind of an alarming jobs report last week had a 90,000 job loss for the previous month. And we're going to get an in-depth analysis on this next week, because next week, our Webinar Wednesday for SBDC Day, we'll have our special guest, Webinar Wednesday resident economist, Dr. Mark Evans. And so we'll add these questions to Dr. Evans on what is going on in the economy. It's been a while since he's been on Webinar Wednesday, making his premier visit in 2026. Next week on SBDC Day, and more on that later. Another thing on economic news and our economic information and quarter is that we have the Current Economic Journal, which is published by the School of Business and Public Administration, actually now the college, at Cal State Bakersfield. So that has a new issue out, and we'll be discussing that in the coming months for some really great localized information. And lastly, our economic corner for this week is just going to talk about the economic effects of franchising, the positive effects. And so franchises is important to our economy because of the job creation that it supports, the small business formation that we all know is good, the contribution to the GDP, the gross domestic product. It's also good for local economic development. It's also good for communities, particularly rural communities that have a franchise that comes to town and offers more variety. Access to capital and lending is good, and also the industry diversification are all very positive factors on why franchising is good for the economy. So on our AI and question mark feature that we started this year, we're going to talk about AI and small business usage. And this is hot off the press. I mean, as of today, so quickly, I couldn't even get the slide up. I could just give you some numbers because I found it kind of interesting and a little bit startling. It's AI usage with small businesses on a national level is up to 46%. But in our region, with a sample size of, I believe, in the 60s, 62 to be exact, we found that to be only 41%. And on the national usage of, do you plan to use AI in the next year? 15% nationally said yes, 14% locally. So if you throw those two numbers together, you have 61% that are either using AI nationally or plan to within the next year, whereas we only have 55%. That's a significant difference there. So hopefully we get going on that. And to help you here at the SBDC, we do have our experienced teams paired with our CSUB student interns to support small businesses in 2026. If you want to get that AI solution and that AI advantage in your business, email me. Sign up as an SBDC client and let's get cracking on this particular stuff. Because we are part of the AI University, AIU, part of America's SBDCs, 24 states participating in September. I'm willing to bet now that that's probably 40 to 45 states. And then there were 150 students working nationally. Gripe, we got 12 of them right here at the SBDC here in beautiful downtown Bakersfield. So look us up. A lot of other tools if you're an SBDC client. Last week we talked about one of them particularly, but you can always find our webinars in our CSUB SBDC. This one will be there shortly, but all of our webinars are there if you want to reconnect with a webinar from 5 years ago or from 5 weeks ago. They are there. Thank you, our 523 subscribers. Subscribe and get the information easily. Our community calendar night tonight will be in Tehachapi for the Business Resource Center Mixer. And that'll be at the Alta One Federal Credit Union branch at 665 Tucker. I will be there, hopefully at 5:30, if not shortly after, and there till 7. Come by and say hi. We'll be there. It's also sponsored by your Greater Tehachapi Chamber of Commerce. Last week, we had a great presentation on vertical IQ, another great tool that can help you on your quest toward looking and evaluating a particular franchise business. So contact us. Lot of good things happening here at the SBDC. Get in on the confidential, no cost, no obligation expert consulting. There's the website, which brings us to our special guest today. And our special guest today is Jason Quach, and he is the franchise owner of ShareTea in both Bakersfield and ShareTea in Delano, as well as a business consultant specializing in a lot of different areas. I'll let you read through a lot of that stuff because, you know me, I like to hack introductions. You can read part of it. But the thing I like about today is today you're going to be able to hear from somebody who has lived the franchise experience firsthand. He's navigated the startup phase, worked with franchisors, managed the realities of a day-to-day franchise operation. And as usual on Webinar Wednesday, we're here to throw you no theory. You're going to hear what happens once the door opens from a franchisee himself. Jason's true proof of concept, of course, comes down to the picture on the left. Time to enjoy with his franchise, his wife Hannah, 14-month-old son Roger, and he plans to teach his son the same independence and discipline that drives his business. Jason, it's great to have you here on Webinar Wednesday. Come on in and let's get this show on the road.
Thank you, Kelly. I actually want to credit most of my franchising success to Kelly and his team here at the SBDC. They've played an integral part in helping us grow our business. Just to bring that upon a thing where if you're already not signed up for the SBDC, you definitely should because their help is free and it is amazing, amazing, amazing. So, a little bit about myself. I want to see this as a two-way street between our participants and myself. I want to call this our first date, really. So, a bit about myself is that I am a multi-unit franchise owner. I have both Bakersfield and Delano. I used to spend roughly 120 hours a week working, and it was intense, it was exhausting, it was draining. But now I'm spending about 15 hours a week or so running my businesses, and I get to spend the rest of my time with my family, with my son, and with my wife. So that's a bit about me. But this webinar, I wanted to make it about you and what we can talk about that will help you as either aspiring franchise owners or people who are learning about the franchise system to get the right and the best information for it, because I've got a lot here and I don't want to talk for 5 hours because I don't think you have the time for that. So if you are aspiring to start a franchise or open your own or purchase a franchise, if you could just type 1 into the chat, kind of give me an indicator for that. That'll help me understand where that's coming from. We got a couple of ones. We got Brandon. We've got, thank you, Martha. Okay, so you guys are looking to open a franchise or to purchase a franchise. Melanie wants to purchase a franchise. Cool. So Connie, thank you. We do have some interest in franchises. And so there's a lot of things on the back end in the reality of franchising that most franchisers don't talk about. And so today I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty, the dark side that nobody really talks about. And these are the promises that most franchisors will make to potential franchisees, such as myself or yourself. So the first one is that it's plug and play, no risk. The second one is it operates by itself. You just sit back and collect a check. The third one is that you can be in business for yourself and make that money, but not by yourself and get their support. So all of this sounds really, really great. Okay. Plug and play, no risk. Oftentimes they'll tell you that, well, you're buying a plan that works. You're going to make money. You're going to profit. And I know that's one of our biggest concerns because from Kelly's poll, most of you were worried about, well, how much money do I have to invest and how much money do I get back, right? Very, very valid concerns. So first of all, it's not going to be no risk. I have risk right there on screen. So when you get into a franchise, you're going to need money to start up. Most of you think you'll probably need to borrow roughly 150, 300,000. Valid. You are liable for those loans. Okay, if you're getting an SBA loan, you are liable for that. If you are signing a lease with a landlord, you are liable for that. So the franchises typically, though every contract is different, they're not going to assume responsibility for those things if the business doesn't turn out well. There's no business that's a 100% guarantee. Next, market volatility. So let's say you're operating your franchise and it's great, but something happens to the market. All of a sudden, the place where you're buying inventory is being charged a 50% tariff. Okay, so let's say you've got a t-shirt franchise where you're buying raw t-shirts and every shipment you get from China is 10,000, well, your next shipment is 15,000. Sounds great, right? That's best business. Your fixed costs. So franchises will oftentimes take money off the top. So that means the top line, the revenue line, that's money that comes to you before you pay your employees, before you pay your rent, before you pay yourself. It can be between 3% to sometimes I've seen 12 to 15% out there, which means like let's say you make 50,000, they might just take off 5,000, and if your profit margin is less than 10%, you're paying that franchisor to run their business. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. The last one, this is the funniest one because this just happened a few days ago. So McDonald's is a very popular franchise. Can I get a 2 in the chat for anyone who's had McDonald's in the past, say, month? You know, if you had McDonald's in February or in March, you know, just type 2 in the chat for me, please. I recently had it about 2 weeks ago. I had some chicken nuggets there, and they were very good. So
Nobody's admitting it.
nobody's. It's okay.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, it's only me. I'm the only one who eats McDonald's. So, anyways, that's the effect of reputation. Oh, Connie. Okay, so Connie and I are the only ones who eat McDonald's. That's the effect of reputation. The CEO of McDonald's recently posted a video of him taking a nibble of a burger of his new product. And so that drove a lot of backlash because as the CEO, you're the face of the company and you're supposed to love your product. You're supposed to love your burgers. But the way that he nibbled at it caused a lot of negative backlash. And if you're a McDonald's franchise owner, do you think that'll increase your revenue or decrease your revenue? This is completely out of your control. Absolutely, Renji. If someone outside of your control does something like that, it decreases your revenue and it negatively affects your money. Okay. So the next big promise that's broken is that it operates by itself and you just sit back and collect the checks. Here's the reality. When you purchase that franchise, what you're buying is the name. Okay. So like Kelly says, this is a brand that people are aware of, hopefully. And secondly, a business plan. Okay, which is here's the transcript. Execution is based on you. Okay, so who's going to run the day-to-day? You. Who's going to hire and fire people? You. Has anyone here hired or fired anybody? Could we get a 3 in the chat? If you've either hired or fired anyone, please type 3 into the chat. Okay, those are big moves where many people have never hired or fired anyone. I have friends who are nurses and they opened a franchise. Thank you, Martha. It's rough to fire. It's fun to hire though. So there are a bunch of nurses and they decided to open this boba franchise. And I said, wow, that's very brave of you, you know? And so the first thing they had to figure out was, how do we find the right people to work in this job? It's not that they can't find good people. It's just you have to differentiate between good and bad, right? And so, let's say that you are an established franchise, though, and you understand all these concepts, and you've made enough money so that you can hire a manager to run the day-to-day. You could find somebody to do HR. Then you have to worry about your margins. So hiring all those people costs a lot of money, right? And that decreases your margin. And so that's what you're responsible for. You're also responsible for inventory. A lot of businesses will have inventory. If you open even a plumbing franchise, right, you'll need to have the right supplies, you'll need to have the right equipment. And if you run a business, which I see there's probably 13 people here that have run a business, you understand, if you don't order the inventory, you can't operate. That's rough. Okay. And the last promise that franchisors typically will make is that you're in business for yourself and not by yourself. And this is the really scary part here, okay? So when you sign that agreement, and every agreement is going to be different, there are things in there that because the franchisor wrote the agreement that are going to benefit them at your expense. Okay, so what does that mean? So let's say, for example, you want to open a Subway. It's a great franchise to make sandwiches, right? So you open a Subway, and 2 months later, someone else says, hey, I want to open a Subway 3 minutes away from you. Well, what's the franchisor going to say? Sure. Some of them will have rules that will protect you from that, but some won't. And if that happens, instead of being somebody who's on your team, all of a sudden that pie that you're used to eating gets cut off and you're eating a smaller slice. Okay. If there are problems between the agreement, between the franchisor and the franchisee, oftentimes it will favor the franchisor. So they've got a lot of power in this relationship that you've signed on to. Okay. One thing that they'll say is that they'll support you. They'll give you marketing credits. They'll put Google ads on for you. They'll help you with this and that. They'll help you train your team. And that is sponsored by the money that you pay them. So let's say you've got a 10% royalty. They might take 1 or 2% of that to do things that would directly affect your business on a positive level. But let's say, for example, if they want to run a promotion for a BOGO deal, who's going to pay for that? Anybody guess? Yep, it'll be you. So that, and then last but not least, you don't get the independence, but I think that that's a minor issue. That being said, though, it doesn't mean that franchising is bad. And so I'd like to tell you a bit about my story about how we got started and how we turned something that was a more rigid business plan and made it a profitable endeavor. Okay, so I'm going to tell you just a little bit about me, and we're going to go a little deeper. In my childhood, my parents were business owners, and they worked 12 to 14-hour days, 7 days a week. Do we have any immigrants in the chat? Do we have any people whose maybe parents came from another country? Excuse me, grab some water. Anybody come from another country where you got to really, really hustle in order to make ends meet, make sure that you can take care of your family? Yes, Connie? Okay. Yeah, me too. So they came from Vietnam after the war, and they really, really had to work hard all the time. So as a child, though, I didn't understand that. I just saw mom and dad aren't here. I'm taking care of myself and making sure I'm alive. And that's it, right? So I always promised myself that when I grow up and I have a child, I'm going to spend time with my child. I'm going to spend time with my wife. We're going to go travel. We're going to go do things. We're going to create memories together. And as a young adult, that goal of mine became very clear to me. And so I took a lot of different jobs to understand different aspects of business. And from there, I realized what my strengths and weaknesses are. And that's very, very important, because if you understand yourself and you understand what the market needs, you can make something happen, and usually it's profitable. Okay. So at the time, my wife and I were in Orange County. There's a lot of great food options out there, a lot of great drink options. But then we moved back to Bakersfield, and there wasn't really much to do. It was kind of boring. We moved back, right before COVID hit, and I remember she really wanted boba, and she loves boba, and so we would go down to Orange County every other week to get some boba. And it started adding up quite a bit. So we realized that there was this little hole in the market for good boba. So she and I tried maybe 30 different chains before we finally settled on ShareTea. ShareTea for us was just, it was consistently good. It was a really great drink. Consistently. Every single franchise we went to, it was really great. And coming back to the strengths and weaknesses, if you ask me to come up with a way to make a good drink, I'd say sorry. Try somebody else. I can't do that. What I can do is I can run a business, I can grow a business, and especially I can make businesses prosper and run them in a systematic way where I can be free. Okay, so once we decided on ShareTea, I went to Starbucks and I worked for Starbucks for a year and a half, and I learned every single one of their secrets. Okay, so why is this important? Well, Starbucks is not a franchise, but they have a very, very successful business system. You'll never see the owner of Starbucks there, ever. The shifts are run by 16 to 25-year-olds. Okay, they run teams of 5 to 20. And that's important to me because I wanted to find a way where I can run my business without having to be there every single day doing the day-to-day activities. I don't mind them. In fact, I started as a barista at the very bottom. But learning those secrets from Starbucks, we took all of those and we brought it back and we implemented it into our business in ShareTea. Okay, that has made much more time and money for me than anything else in the world. So I'll share a couple of the secrets that I brought over. But if you want more, obviously, you'll have to contact Kelly or go to the CSUB, SBDC.com website to sign up there. So a couple of the secrets that I learned was that, there's a system of checks and balances, right? So in my boba shop ShareTea, every single leader will have to count the cash drawer every single shift. That verifies that the previous person counted it correctly. Okay, and that helps everyone keep the money in track. That helps keep everyone accountable. Other systems can include how we do our promotions, how we run the team, at what point does each person get certain things, and how we treat our customers. Okay, so that's my story. And after 4 years of opening my first shop and 2 years of opening my second one, I'd say we're doing pretty okay. We're having a good time. I'm honestly living the life that I've always wanted to live. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Maureen. And we'd love to bring this to you as well. So if you're seriously considering opening a franchise, I would say these are your next 3 steps. Okay. The first step is the most important one. The first step is to complete the Mirror Audit. So Maureen should have sent a copy of an outline so you can write all these down. But writing down your Mirror Audit will give you an understanding of your current situation and yourself in order to best run your business. So the first thing you're going to write down is your why. So when you're running a business, you're going to go through tough times. You're going to go through uphill battles. You're going to go through things you never wished anybody else would have to go through. But if your why is strong enough, and that's why it's important to be honest, if your why is strong enough, it will carry you through and help you come up with solutions to your problems in a way where you may never have thought of it. So for example, my why was my family. And when we ran into issues, I said, well, I have a family. Like, I've got to take care of them. I've got to do something. What are my options? What are my solutions? What can I do here and there? One of them was to go to the SBDC and ask for guidance. And boy, did I get some good guidance. We got marketing guidance, we got sales guidance, we got vision and leadership guidance. It was great. The second thing is how much money you have. So it says burn rate capital. Oh, thank you. But how much money do you have? Okay, and how much money can you borrow? That's very important because if you don't know how much money you have and can borrow, you're going to run out of money much faster than you realize. Number 3 is time. So every person's situation is different. You may have 5 hours a day, 8 hours a day, or 15 hours a day to work. The amount of time that you can put into your business is something that you need to write down. How much time can you put in there on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis? And the fourth thing is called the skill gap. So what are your strengths and weaknesses? Okay. Anyone want to throw in a guess what my strengths and weaknesses could be? No, you probably wouldn't guess. But if you know what your strengths and weaknesses are, throw them in the chat. If you're good at talking to people, if you're good at sales, if you're good at managing other people, inspire others through what you're able to do. If those are your strengths, great. Operations, culture, I love it. I love it. So that tells me that you're great at working with others. You're great at bringing and uplifting others. Thank you, Martha. At the flip side, you should also know what your weaknesses are. So for mine, for example, my weakness is leadership and management. I know. So that's important because I needed to hire somebody who is a good leader and a good manager all in one right when I had my business. I couldn't find one until 3 years down the line, but eventually we found one, and now I'm able to work exclusively in my areas of strength. So those 15 hours a week that I'm working, about 12 to 13 of it is just doing sales and marketing. The other 3 hours, I'm working with my manager to make sure she has everything that she needs. Okay, so that's on the internal. Again, this outline is sent to you, so please fill it out. Number 2 is franchise research. That's step 2, okay? Look into what franchises there are. Look into what systems that there are, because franchises can be very profitable. They will give you a plan, and that plan is honestly better than most people's plans. That plan has been reviewed. That plan has been redone over and over and over and over again until that plan is polished, right? And they're probably still polishing it if they're a good franchisee or franchisor, sorry. You can learn from actual franchises. And Kelly will have a question for me about that later. But learn about the different franchises and which one you really want to open. And step 3, to get ready for our meeting, have those 2 to 3 franchises listed out, have your personal audit done, and then have a draft plan that's also sent to you, and questions. You can ask for myself through the SBDC. You could ask for Kelly. Kelly will be able to direct you to whoever you need to talk to. Every consultant here has specialties that they are able to work in. Some are good at marketing, some are good at sales, etc., etc. Oh, thank you. And I'd like to share just a little shameless plug. This is me about 10 pounds ago or so. We do a lot of catering here at ShareTea. We like to bring our products off-site. So if you are the head of an organization, or if you want to throw a great memorable party, consider having us at your party or event. We do quinces, we do weddings, baby showers, corporate events, anything that you could think of, we are able to take care of. So you can reach out to us either on Instagram at ShareTeaCentralCA or email, and you could reach out to us for the catering there. But for your business help, please go to this website, CSUB-CSBDC.com, sign up, get your help now. Back to Kelvin.
Fantastic. Come on in here. Let's have a little discussion here. Okay, so I didn't think franchising sucked at all after hearing all that great stuff.
Yeah.
What did I miss on the suck part?
Well, you just got to be a little careful. You have to know what you're getting into, and these are just some of the things that people don't talk about as much.
Well, then tell me, what is your most negative aspect that you've ran into in franchising?
The most negative aspect, I would say, would be leadership. So leadership for every franchisor will be different. In my particular franchise business, leadership can be difficult because I'm working with someone from another country and another time zone. So communication is difficult for me on that aspect.
Are there challenges being a franchisee of a global franchise?
Absolutely, absolutely. There are. Some of those issues that I brought up, for example, tariffs, they affected me personally. So we get our products directly from Taiwan, the capital, Boba. And so when they came into play, well, we had to pay an extra 30 to 50% in order to receive our inventory. That took a pretty heavy hit to us.
Mm. And we'll be talking probably tariffs next week. Since there's a lot going on there with the economist, but I'm not touching that subject. Okay, so you were sold the dream of the franchise, or when you went through this particular process, did you talk to any real owners to see how things actually work in the business?
Yeah, I actually did, Kelly. And so I think that's one of the most important things that aspiring franchise owners can do is while they're doing their research, talk to other franchise owners in different markets. I personally called about 8 other franchise owners all over the US for ShareTea in order to understand how business is going. The overwhelming majority at the time had very positive outlooks. They said business is great. You should get in. We're having a lot of fun. We're making money. I said, okay.
Well, it sounds like you did a lot of things right. I really did appreciate it when you mentioned that you worked within the industry, went to Starbucks, worked there,
Yeah.
and you didn't rush it. You spent a year and a half, not an hour and a half, working at Starbucks. Probably felt a little bit more than a year and a half or an hour and a half. But really, it really set the table. And one of my pet peeves is that everybody wants to start and go into business tomorrow. So oftentimes, going into business a year and a half or 2 years later is more beneficial. You kind of determined that plan, you got that all done. So kudos for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I think Maureen had a question for us. And
What is the best way to evaluate a potential franchise?
yes. So I would say to talk to the current franchise owners. If you are able to talk to them, some of them might share their numbers with you. Some of them might share their experiences with you. It depends on what you're looking for to evaluate. For me, as a business person, the biggest thing I care about is ROI. Franchising, even business, is just a vehicle for me to achieve my goals to spend time with my family. So the ROI was good, and the amount of time that I had to spend doing the business inside of the business was at a level where I find acceptable.
Okay, we got time for a couple more questions, so please, you had a burning question, jump in there right now. Because you might want to ask something like, hey, what are the key requirements for success in the franchise world?
Yeah. So in the franchise world, we should keep in mind that we're working within a set of rules where you don't set the rules, which I know it's funny to say, but when you open your own business, you set all of the rules. And you can say, well, we
Mhm.
start at this time, we close at this time, we serve these things, and this is what we do. But when you're working within a franchise, you follow along the rules of their business for good reason. If one McDonald's started serving hot dogs, it would be kind of strange. So that's why everyone follows the same system. And I hope I answered that question right.
I think you did. Okay, we have time for one more question. Pick of these which one you want me to ask.
Hmm.
Okay, so thank you for the question. Why franchise as opposed to a regular business model?
It's a really great question. My family still does business in the traditional sense, and they're still working 12 to 14 hours a week, or a day, sorry. So the traditional business can be good for those who are more creative, those who need a place to explore and share their talents in the world. The franchise model I would say it is, sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. So if you're new to business, the franchise model can provide a framework that will make it easier and better for you to run your business. Uh, Being new to business at the time, because I had never owned a brick and mortar, I didn't know what I was doing at all. And the franchisor gave me guidelines in which this is what I can do. Okay? As opposed to a traditional business, you kind of have to figure it out all by yourself, which could also be profitable. So if you're looking to maximize um, your individuality, if you're looking to have the freedom of expression the way you want to run things, open the traditional business. You'll just need to know that you need to come up with the systems and the processes and the handbooks and all the other fun stuff.
Great stuff. Okay, final question. Our final question of the day. Thank you, Sunshine, for the question. It's yours. If you were starting over today, what would you do differently as a franchisee?
What would I do differently as a franchisee?
Uh,
Well, obviously, I'd sign up for the SBDC as soon as I can. But otherwise, I don't think I would do anything differently. Business, like many other things, is a journey, and I've learned a lot of things on this journey. And if I were to do things differently, I don't think I would learn the same lessons.
okay.
No.
Well, that's going to wrap us. And I got to say, Jason, I have visited Taiwan and I have had bobo tea, and I really appreciate and enjoy your products. So good job on that.
Thank you.
So that's going to wrap us up here for Webinar Wednesday, number 374. Jason, it's been fantastic. It's great having you on today. We'll be back next week with Webinar Wednesday, number 375. Isn't that weird how that works? And we'll be talking about the economic situation in the world on SBDC Day 2026. So for Jason, I'm Kelly. We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.